Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F1 22 as always. And today we're going to be showing 3 open lobby races, and this is actually the crossplay that has now fully been released. I will be doing another video in a bit more detail, probably this week, outlining my experience playing this, but this is actually my first lobbies in the crossplay from the full release, and these 3 races here are pretty intense in terms of how they actually finish, so hopefully you enjoy it. Starting off with Silverstone here, equal cars as usual, random grid, and getting a pretty good start here against the Alpine. And going into someone, getting a massive whack from behind, but been promoted up into P7. And as always, if you want a guaranteed invite into these lobbies, and especially with crossplay now being enabled, clicking that join button to join my YouTube membership, joining my YouTube members Discord. I always give quite a bit of notice when I'm doing these lobbies because they do fill up very, very quickly. And plus, you will get a discount on one-to-one coaching with myself at coachlimitless.com, and also get access to all my updated setups. But yeah, in these races, having a week away from the game as well, because I went away on holiday, I think it's sometimes something you actually need to do. And prior to going away, I was feeling a little bit stuck with the game, if I'm being honest, in terms of just my pace, just feeling quite inconsistent, picking up quite a few time penalties in league races, which is something I don't usually do too often. And I always say to people, sometimes you actually need to take a few steps back to take many steps forward in the future. For some, that might mean just reducing your hours in terms of how much you're playing per day. But for me, I think actually just having a complete disconnect from the game for around 5 days to 7 days is a pretty good thing to do. Because now I've come back to this and I just feel so much more mentally fresh. But also muscle memory wise, I'm not stuck in the habits I was doing before I left. I'm actually, I think it's a bit easier for me to pick up some new muscle memory in terms of actually adapting my driving style. And one thing I've tried to do now, and you'll see in this video, is use a few more high gears, or 1 gear higher for quite a lot of corners, because I think in this game a higher gear definitely seems to reward you a little bit more than the lower gears when it comes to traction and also stability. So that's something I'm really working on here, and I felt since I come back, and I will be doing my league racing highlights from BRS later this week, felt it's probably the best I've actually been driving on this game despite having that time out. So that's definitely something I actually recommend to people if you feel you're kind of hitting a wall in terms of pace and you're just becoming quite inconsistent. Sometimes actually less is more. And I always say this to people who I have a coaching session with. I really describe it as the same way you would actually be training in the gym. Like if you want to increase the bench press, and sometimes you might be doing too much of the bench press, you actually want to be maybe taking a day off now and again to actually allow yourself to recover. And I really do feel that's what works for me, at least. Now, for different people, might be for something else, different methods, but for me, sometimes taking a little bit of a break really does help. And no, in this race here, managing to get up to P4 now. This guy's got his red light flashing, so we're going to try and take advantage of this, of the Ferrari, and doing quite a nice move up into P3 here. And as I always say, these lobbies are quite competitive most of the time as well. I think we actually do have Mr. FRA Elite in here, who, I've said it before, I think he is a top 5 driver on the entire game. I think the only drivers who are potentially better and faster than him at the moment would be maybe Lucas Blakely, Barry Boromund, Jarno Watmere, Frederick Rasmussen. I think he could very much hang with all those guys. That's how good he actually is. But I do know he spends quite a bit of time on this game, but that's something you have to do when you want to get to that potential. But in the future, I think spending that amount of time, you're paying hours and hours a day, in the long run, it's always hard to maintain that form all the time. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops across this game the deeper we get into it. But we're up into P3 now, and I picked up a 2-second time penalty for that incident we had on lap 1. Guy up ahead of me here, KZGX2304. Don't know if that's just a randomized gamer tag, but he was actually pretty fast in these lobbies as well. Guy in the lead doesn't have a time penalty at the moment, so we're going to hope for something miraculous to happen in order to be in chance of the win. But yeah, just felt like I was driving just so much more in control, and had a bit of a tweak with the setups recently as well. I think as this game develops, we are starting to actually understand what the current trend is within the setups, and I will be continuing my hot lap and setup videos from this week. Actually, Wednesday I will be releasing Monza, and I will be planning to do at least 2 tracks for each week, and we don't really have that many tracks left, as that Vapor Shadow has actually spun out here, or I'm not sure what happened to him, but now we've actually been promoted into P2. Guy ahead of me has a 2-second penalty as well. The guy behind me has a 2-second penalty. The next closest guy without one is 3.4 seconds behind. So this is actually now turned into the race lead, and I think Vapor Shadow has left the lobby, and don't really blame him, to be honest. But now this is actually going to be a straight fight with this Mercedes guy who I was racing with before this. Definitely has some really good pace. So let's see how much ERS he has available. And one thing I've noticed as well, I don't know if it's just me, but the overtake button doesn't seem to be quite as powerful when someone's actually running out of ERS. It doesn't seem to be quite as OP in terms of how much speed you're losing in a straight line. So when you're under that 10%, it doesn't seem to be as punishing, which means the guy behind you has the more ERS. Doesn't really seem to be benefiting that much. I don't know if that is just myself. Please let me know down below if you feel that is a thing or not. But coming through into here now, we're trying to get a good exit, but he gets a pretty good exit coming on to the hangar straight, using the ERS here now, and we are gaining and gaining, but he is obviously got quite a bit of ERS to use as well, so trying to get a really good exit here. So this is going to be my last opportunity. So now coming into the 500k, we're going down the inside. He actually gives us room on the inside. What are we going to do here? We're going to go for the switchback. Oh, we going to get this move done. Coming through into Susco for Elite, always tries to take me out. Go across the line. We win by 0.006 seconds, or 6 thousandths, may I say. And yeah, that was a pretty nice one. So couldn't really have got much closer than that, but that little dummy, no contact in that last chicane, did the job quite nicely. Now we arrive at Hungary. This time we're actually sitting on pole position, so let's see what we can do here. So as the 5 flights go out now, trying to get a good start, and we do get a pretty good launch. That's a really good start, but this guy, Improving Pig, gets an even better one. And going into this turn 1, yeah, a typical online lobby, I have to say here. So we're back to P20, and now let's see how much progress we can make. And one thing I've also tried to do with my driving is more the mental side of things as well, which I will be discussing in my BRS Austria highlights. I think the last league race I had at Baku didn't really go too well, and if you've been watching me for a while, I'm definitely someone who wears my heart on my sleeve. I try and really just give you a genuine perspective of how I am, and yeah, it's quite hard to contain emotions at times, but for me, when I'm racing on the track, I'm a very different person compared to when I'm not in a competitive environment. I think a lot of people do have that different personality, that different drive in the heat of the moment. But outside of the track, I'm very, very relaxed. And I just thought to myself, I'm still going to be myself, but just try and just contain and try and just be a bit calmer when things go against you. Because I think it's good showing emotions, and that's something I respect people doing, to always just try and be themselves. But sometimes when you let the emotion get control of you, that's when it can actually impact your performance. So that's something I've really actually tried to focus on as well with this break, is to try and, when things go against me, instead of throwing your toys out the pram a little bit, then actually just try and focus as much as possible and try and make the best out of a bad situation. And then after the race, you can rant and rave if you want to, but no, it's good to get angry a little bit, don't mind that, but I think when you let it get control of you, that's when it can negatively impact your performance. So that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. Although this is an open lobby, sometimes I do get frustrated in open lobbies as well, but you can see we actually had a bit of a smile on our face in that first lap incident. So I'm just going to try and make the best out of this situation here. So nice clean racing with this Ash Fitz guy going around the outside of him. So fair play. The slap bus sets a fast lap of the race, and we've actually already got back up to P4. So pretty nice recovery so far. So now let's see what our pace is going to be like here, as someone else has actually gone off. So now we're up into P3. So the gap is 4.8 seconds to that guy who got an amazing start at the beginning of the race. And yeah, I've said it before in my videos, sometimes just having the patience and not letting the red mist kind of consume you is really the best approach. And no, when you're in a league race, you definitely have a lot more on the line, because when I go for league races, I do practice quite a bit before, or quite a bit is usually the day before for an hour or two, and then maybe for an hour and a half before the race. But it definitely means something to you much more versus just a random open lobby race. And yeah, in those moments when basically things go against you, it's obviously going to be a lot harder to contain yourself. And we even saw that in F1 this weekend with Alonso as well. And I think Alonso was saying that he wished that F1 didn't broadcast his reactions, but I think you've heard it from F1 or even in sports. If you had a microphone underneath you, I think you would see and hear quite a bit of frustration from people. So, but I think the key is just to try and vent out a little bit of that frustration, but try and use it in a positive way rather than let it overtake you, if that makes sense. But you can see here we've closed in quite rapidly on these guys up ahead, and this setup I've got here is pretty much exactly the same as my Hungary TT setup, just with the minimum pressures. And after every single league race, or if I set a new PB online, I always update it in my Discord as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that as the Alfa Romeo goes wide. And coming into here, we don't want to go ahead just in case of this yellow flag, and then once we go past this instant, now we go up ahead. So timed that actually really nicely, otherwise that would have given me an illegal overtake. And now let's see what we could do. So we actually went back to last, and now we're almost back to first again. So very, very nice progress through the field here. And I sense that a lot of people are probably overheating their tyres, because I am running minimum pressures, and this is a track where it's very, very easy to overheat the tyres. So I imagine that the Slap Bus has probably got quite a lot of chronic understeer at this stage of the race. We still have a little bit of ERS to use to attack him going through this last sector, and we're running quite a bit of downforce as well. I think we're running 50-38 wing, so a very, very high wing setup. Now coming through it here, you can see how much time we've actually gained just through that little chicane here. So now we're under half a second behind, and coming through into here, we're going to use a little bit of our ES. This is really the main overtaking opportunity. So using the ES here, but it looks like he has some to spare himself. Now coming through into this last sector, so really getting a good run. He goes quite defensive, got to try and go around the outside here, but there isn't really that much grip on the outside, and he covers it inside, so we're going to try and go around the outside like we did on Ash Fitz before, but this time we're a bit further behind, and going across the line. What's this going to be? It's going to be 0.034 this time, so under a tenth of a second. Again, another very, very close finish. But now we arrive at Monza for our final 5-lap race, and let's see what we can do from here. So I think we are going to be starting in P10, which we did for the first race as well. So we've got 5 lights here, and as they go out, getting another very, very good start. So my starts in this game have been really good so far, which I will be doing a video on a little bit later as well. So go try and go through the middle of these cars, making a little bit of contact, a little bit of the bumper cars here, as a Williams goes on the curb, doesn't get quite the traction. So we've gone up 2 places already, and with our straight line speed, we're running quite low rings here. We're running about 4-1 wings. Should get this move done, and now we're up into P7, but we've actually been pushed from behind, so we have to take the escape road, and we actually gained a position, but luckily didn't get an illegal overtake from that, so the game actually did that quite fairly there. And now let's see what we can do from here. So in this situation, I'm not really going to use that much ERS because there really is no point. I'm just going to try and let these guys ahead of me just waste their battery and get as close as I can going through into the corners. You can see we get a pretty good exit out of Ascari, and now going into Parabolica here. Let's see how much time we can actually make up going through here. So you can see making up quite a bit of time going through this corner. Do you use the ERS on the exit? No, we actually don't at all. And you can see the guys up ahead of me are using theirs. So a lot of time in open lobbies, I just let everyone kind of waste their ERS and then attack them when I know that their battery is probably going to be quite low. So at this stage, we're not going to be using it that much at all. So we're going to be using it here, and then we actually turn it off, using it a little bit more again, because I knew my straight line speed was going to be really good. And now we are up into P5. Coming through into this first chicane, you can actually take the curb here, but if you take it too much, even on 60 FPS, it will be punishing you. Now we're up into P5. Leader is still right there as well, and we're going to be using a little bit more here, not too much, just so we have enough for the final few laps. And going through Ascari, let's see what happens here. So you can cut this quite a bit on the inside, but I actually did it a little bit too much on this occasion, as someone else has actually gone off. Proven Pig has actually gone off, so now we are up into P4. Not much of a threat from behind, so we're probably going to use a little bit of ERS on the exit here, but again, just trying to save as much as we can for the last 2 laps. And we set the fast up of the race, not using any of the battery going down here because I knew my straight line speed was going to be really, really good, as a couple of people going side by side going through into turn 1, and it's a Hamilton of a Stafford almost going through into that. Now we're up into P2 this race, and yeah, we are just going to really just sit behind this guy and just wait for the opportunity. You can see under braking, we're going to be back up to 90% of the ERS here, and yeah, P10 to P2. All we got to do now is just really just take our time. There's no point really overtaking at this stage of the race, but his pace actually does seem to be quite good. We've got the DRS here. Let's see how fast we are in a straight line. It looks like he has actually got quite a bit of speed himself. So going through Ascari, just making sure we don't get a track invalidation this time. And this guy actually has got fairly good pace, but you can see our ERS is almost up to 100%. So I think he's just trying to create as big a gap as he can between us. So it looks like he is using a little bit of his battery pack. We are just going to conserve ours for now, and you will see in a straight line with the DRS. Goxie sets the fastest lap of the race for 20.9, making up quite a bit of time under the braking, and we've got a full bar of the ERS to use. So just going to make sure we're going to be nice and close going into the final lap. But it looks like he is using quite a bit of his battery as well. So coming through here, really important that we try and close in that gap a little bit, because if he has over 6/10 and he has the battery, even with our straight line speed, it's going to be quite hard to close into them. So again, coming through to here, try and get a good exit. So using the ERS here, gap is about 6/10 of a second. What's it going to be at the end? And you can see we are starting to close in quite quickly now. Being careful of Ascari once again, try and get a good exit off here. So going to be using a little bit more of the battery. Gap is now about 4/10 of a second. So I was predicting he wasn't going to be having that much of the battery. So we're going to be using a little bit here. I can see he's using it quite a lot. So I wasn't really confident that I was going to overtake him going down this main straight. So I was really hoping that he would actually be wasting all of his ERS. But it's really important now that I try and stay as close as I can, because there really is only one more opportunity, or a couple more opportunities to go for the rest of the lap. So you can see we're using quite a bit of the battery here. Very important that we get these corners right. So coming through into here, you want to kiss that curb a little bit, and he has gained a bit of time through here, so we need to be a little bit more closer than this. So this guy's actually picking up quite a good fight, so I definitely underestimated him a little bit here. So coming up here, he actually gets a really good exit. We're using the DRS now and the ERS. Let's see, does his red light flash coming down through into here? So no, his red light is not flashing. So it's really important that we get a good exit coming off Ascari. And now is his red light going to be flashing coming through into here? Yes, it is. But as I said earlier, we're not gaining that much in a straight line. So he goes quite defensive. We're going to go around the outside, hoping that he'd break a bit earlier on the inside. And now we're going to be using ERS again. What we going to do here is going to be another repeat of Hungary. But coming across the line, we're just about going to get with the fastest lap by 0.040. So 400ths of a second. And every race has been under 1/10 of a second, which is absolutely insane. So I just want to say thank you for everyone who participated in these lobbies as well. You can see me actually taking a picture of those results there. But thank you so much for the people who joined us. And yeah, thank you so much for supporting the channel. And I will be catching you very soon. Peace.